Thanks for clicking on to attheraces.com. This is our Royal Ascot preview of Saturday afternoon's big cavalry charge, the Wokingham Handicap over 6 furlongs. My guest here, Jason Weaver, actually won this race a few moons ago now, Jason, but happy memories nevertheless.
Oh, for sure, yes. Najida for none other than James Toller. And, yeah, it's a little £5 claimer. Lucky enough to get on her back, and she was good enough to win.
And she was in rattling good form, Jason. Is that the most important thing over the draw, over ground conditions? Do you need to be in peak condition for this big race?
I think, in all honesty, John, many moons ago, you were able to get in off a reasonable sort of mark, and yeah, going in there in form was a big part of it. Now, John, it's got that competitive. Because going back to the dark ages then, right now, you've nearly got to be verging on group class to go and win. And you're looking for those horses that you think can make that step up the ladder.
Well, that takes us nicely on to Hoofit, who represents Mick Easterby here, because Kieran Fallon has said on more than one occasion that he's convinced Hoofit is group class. He's in great form. Last year he ended in great form as well at Doncaster with this win over the really likeable Noble Storm. He's such a nice horse, isn't he?
He just does everything very fluently. I think he's got a great partner in Kieran Fallon. He gets on with him extremely well. Of course, he was successful here. He's a 10-to-1 shot. The boys had a few quid on him. Of course, he's part owned by Lee Westwood. Of course, Lee just been recently knocked off the perch as world #1, so he'll be hoping to get back up there. And let's hope that he's around to see Hoofit run, because after that success we saw there at Doncaster, he's come out in a mightily competitive sprint at York and again spread eagle the field.
Yeah, I think he's got a big chance. And I don't think, Jason, because the ground was quite quick at York, I don't think he's a mudlark. I used to think he was, but I think he can operate on all sorts of ground now.
It's funny, when you look at him wandering around, you'd expect him to want softish ground, great big feet on him, you know, one of those that you think, oh yeah, the softer the better. But it's not the case. I think that he's probably, John, just started to fill into that frame of his.
Yeah. We're going to have a look at Pastoral Player now, Jason. Pastoral Player was a horse who, well, he won first time up and looked as though he was destined for the very top. But then he developed this really annoying habit of blowing his races at the start, Jason, but as we see at Fosslas, he's now back in the winning groove, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, I think on plenty of occasions there, people were saying he has given himself too much to do. He did dwell on this occasion, John, so although it wasn't as bad as what can be, yeah, I think you could say he's a very capable sprinter on his day. Can you afford to have a little glitch at the start and then expect to win at Royal Ascot? Oh, I think that you need everything in place for a big run. If you were going to go and play him, he's a typical horse. You'd say, right, don't back him anti-post or on the day. You wait until he jumps and you can have a little click on the machine.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a place to be losing lengths, isn't it? And that is the danger if you're backing Pastoral Player, however talented he is. A good winner at Newmarket last time out. Now, it's a shame for Jim Gold. He doesn't look as though Hawkeye the New's going to make it, but his form under scrutiny here as well. At Ascot last time, he beat several other Wokingham hopes. Most notably, probably, is Nasri running a screamer here in third place.
I thought this was a huge run. Now, Nasri was a pretty decent type for Brian Meehan. You know, he sort of threatened to, again, going back into that mould, he threatened to be one of those horses who was going to take the jump into group class. He seems to have settled in remarkably well down at Dandy's, and I think that we could quite clearly see from this that the return or back down a furlong is going to suit him. There were a lot of horses jockeying for the front position there. Michael O'Connell, good rider, don't get me wrong. Be interesting to see who gets the leg up on him, because Dandy will be quadruple-handed at least, I would imagine, in the lineup. This probably would be down as second or third string. I think he actually could be first string.
Very interesting one. As Dandy heads to these big summer festivals, his sprinters always to watch out for. Now, a horse who invariably runs Ascot races really well is George Margerson's Little Star Imperial Guest, and he beat a few of these as well last time out over the course and distance. And it's really strong form, Jason. Deacon Blues, the runner-up this day, has been touted for this race for some time, and no end of other likely Wokingham types in behind on this day.
As far as Imperial Guest is concerned, John, you've got to say that he has probably hoodwinked connections for for quite a while now. He's a 5-year-old. On this evidence, you could say that he's even better back down at a sprint distance. That's what, you know, we'll tend to think of as far as he is concerned. Second horse, Deacon Blues, he's in remarkable form. It just gets going a little bit too late. You know, you'd argue that's one of those races, isn't it? You'd argue just beaten, what is it in the end, a neck or a head in the end in the closing stages, that had Haley been able to just make a challenge a stride earlier, he would have been winning going into this as well. So the two of them likely to be pitched in close to each other again.
Yeah, they're both going to be really popular, aren't they, in the betting market there? Imperial Guest and Deacon Blues fighting out a good finish. Deacon Blues £4 better off, and he was finishing strongly, wasn't he? Now, a horse I really like called Addictive Dream. He's trained by Walter Swinburne, and he won the other day up at Ripon. He was on the far side as they split into two groups. What I love, Jason, here just after halfway, just look how quickly and easily he bursts clear of that far side group. And the form's been franked as well, because the second home on this side, Grissom, won the other day as well.
The second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth all came down the stand side. You've got to go all the way back to the 7th horse to finish, who was over on the far side. Walter Swinburne, again, by his own high standards, has not exactly got out of the traps like Usain Bolt did the other night over the 200 metres. But as far as Addictive Dream is concerned, Walter had a 40-to-1 winner, I think it was, a 25-to-1 winner last night. Ted Durkin was on board. They're all starting to hit their straps. Yeah. So maybe he was just the first of the batch, respected.
Walter told me at Epsom that this horse used to have a little troublesome knee, and they sorted it out. But the whole point being, he said, you wait till this horse gets a bit of cut in the ground as well.
Right.
And I said, oh, well, I glibly said, oh, we'll see him in the Prix de l'Abbé then, rather than handicaps. And he looked at me as if to say, well, sort of, don't be surprised, he's a really good horse.
Well, that's an interesting point to take on view. They looked to be just a little bit, they were making at least a good print or kicking the top off there at Ripon, which seemed to suit him. Maybe, just maybe, we'll have to wait for a bit of rain to see him in, you know, in the best light. Yeah,
really nice horse, a sprinter to keep on the right side of their Addictive Dream. Mind you, aren't they all? Max Power's the next one we move on to. Really, really likeable. Incredible Tale, really. Well, incredible's probably stretching it a little bit too far, Jason, but, you know, he used to race over 7 furlongs and a mile. He's only really recently been reinvented as a sprint handicapper, and a really good one too.
Yeah, and on this occasion, he was up £5 after an easy success at Kempton. Like it the way that he's ridden patiently. I'll tell you who seems to get on extremely well with him is, of course, Pat Cosgrave, who's on board on this occasion. I think that he's valued for a good bit more, don't you? The way he's actually been hitting the line quite strongly. You don't see him in the first half of the race. He goes well at Ascot as well. He can be produced late. He's got the ideal makeup for a race like this.
Yeah, Max Power and stablemate Deacon Blues both got big chances, haven't they? And look, we can't look at all of them, Jason. We'll be here all day, but Acclamazing is another interesting contender, potentially for Marco Botti. Seriously unlucky in a small field at Ascot back in May.
We're not 100% that he's actually going to turn up here because he's got a few other engagements. Let's hope he does, because I think that his winning run should not have come to an end the last time we saw him behind Winter's Night. It just didn't quite happen for him. He gets beat a length and a quarter. The Botti team, he had his first classic winner, of course, just the other day in the German 2,000 guineas, and I believe that Acclamazing was a little bit unlucky on that occasion there. On that evidence, he is again going the right way. He is also, for me, a group horse just floating around at the moment.
So that's what we probably need, don't we? A really classy potential group horse to win this year's Wokingham. The betting is wide open on the best prices. Who Fit and Deacon Blues, joint favourite at 8-to-1 with a 10-to-1 Pastoral Player. And then double figure prices, some really nice horses. I think I'm going to have to stick with Addictive Dream. He made such an impression on me at Ripon, Jason. But more importantly, where were your 5 or 4 here?
I've got to have a couple against the field here, John, because they're both big prices. I think Max Power has got the ideal makeup for a race like this. Got a great big race jockey on board in Pat Cosgrave, and I know that they've got Victoire de Lifar down as Dandy's first string. I think that Nasri could well turn out to be the best. So 2 at a big price. Nasri's around 20s, maybe a little bit bigger, and Max Power at 14s.
Yeah, well, it's one of the week's big races. Saturday afternoon, the Wokingham. Enjoy it right here on At The Races, and stay logged on to attheraces.com.